One of the secrets to success is
Codie Sanchez.
She's an entrepreneur who's invested in over 100 companies, turning over millions a year.
After spending 15 years on Wall Street, she's now sharing her secrets to the world.
On how to make money.
I think that is the question everyone's asking themselves.
I think every human should understand the language of money. It's not that complex. We just make it sound complex because the less people speak our language, the more we can charge them.
For the first time in 25 years,
the richest 1%
will control more than half of the world's wealth by next year.
The gap is huge.
This is why only 1 in 10 people dies wealthy. If you understand the language, you can become an expert in it, and expertise leads to a bunch of cash. And he is basically, or she, but I just have a male avatar for this one, is sitting in a job right now that they don't really like, doing things they don't want to do for people they don't like, and building their dream and their castle. And they're mad about it, although your choice to be there, but they're mad about that decision. And they want a way out, but they have either golden handcuffs where they make too much money, or they have responsibility, bills that have to be paid. And so they don't really feel like they have a solution except going to find like the next best, but kind of still worst company. And then the second avatar is there's an aging population that by and large in the workforce, we say, you're over 50 or 60, like you're not getting as many job looks as you were before, but now we live until we're 90. So what are they supposed to do for 30, 40 years? Their evolution can be also buying a business, taking over something, becoming an owner, and maybe something not aggressive as they were before. And then I think the third avatar are humans who kind of got sold pipe dreams over the last couple of years. Like if I buy 472 houses that pay me $100 a month profit, I'll finally become financially free. Well, it takes a lot of cash to do that. Or, if I have NFTs on the side, or if I go into the stock market on the side, all of which aren't rigged games exactly, but are meant to just beat inflation. And so that third group of people might like what they're doing. They just need something else on the side that's a little bit of a safety net, because I don't think our safety nets will be around by the time we need them. They want what's best for them, typically, which is that you're safe, you're secure, everything's okay. They don't really want what's quote unquote best for you, because that's actually the scary thing. Real growth happens when you take huge risks and you potentially fail and you realize that you're not going to die. And so I realized that my loved ones were some of the reasons that were actually holding me back. Super supportive, but they were always saying things like, is the grass always greener? Oh no, I'm just like unemployable. I want to work for myself. I'm not going to be great at being at somebody else's employee. But it was the stories that I heard again and again from my family because they wanted to keep me safe.
Talk to me about specifically that first one. What were you looking for?
Yep.
What was your thesis? And I guess, how did you learn? How did you learn about buying, as you call them, boring businesses?
Yeah. I realized there's no difference, like materially, between $1 billion, $100 million, a $10 million deal, and a $1 million deal. And if that's the case, then I bet if I have a couple $100,000 or $10,000, I could do a much smaller deal. Wouldn't I be able to do the exact same thing? And just like you would buy, a $100 million condo unit or, condo building, you could see how you could go all the way back and buy your first studio. At the time, my biggest constraint was not knowledge. I knew how to do deals. It was time. One of the first deals I did was a laundromat deal because I figured, well, you don't need somebody to run it full time. And it was a $100K transaction. And so that wouldn't bankrupt me. And, I could buy a little business like this, and that business could keep running even while I wasn't there. And I could have an operator that could probably help me with anything that went sideways. And that's one of the secrets to this is two things. First, you have to learn how to do deals, which is not really that complex. We just make it sound complex in finance because financial lingo is like the moat around how we make money, right? The less people speak our language, the more we can charge them, which is the secret. And then the second aspect was how to run a laundromat, right? Like, I don't know, machine breaks, what am I going to do? And so then I had this guy who knew how to run these, and I could just find the deal for him, close the deal for him, and be the cash for him. If, let's say, somebody manages your property here. Let's say that property manager makes $100K a year profit. They want to sell their business. You're a terrible tenant. They can't handle it anymore. And they sell that business. They want to sell that business typically for 2 to 5x profit. That's what these small businesses go for. And typically there aren't enough buyers. Like there's not a bunch of people running around trying to buy property management companies. So what do they do instead? Well, you would come to them and say, all right, I'll buy out your property management company, but you're going to be my loan. I'm going to pay you a % interest rate, plus I'm going to defer your tax burden, so you pay less in taxes. Nobody likes that, and I'm going to buy the business by giving you $300,000 with over 5 years, right? So I'm going to keep a percentage of the profits and I'm going to give the rest to you. And it's not really that complex. I hope that when I sold the stock, I sold at the right time and you bought at the wrong time. I could sell my property management company to you. You could pay me 3x profits. And I could say, but if the company increases revenue by X amount, which I think it will with these tweaks, and I kind of help you a little bit, how about you pay me $400,000 instead of $300,000? And you would go, great. If you hit those metrics, no problem. That'd be an awesome deal for me. So there's plenty of ways to make sure it's a win-win. But to your point, this is why people are poor, because nobody teaches us the language of deals. But if I was going to do it the pro way, I would say, you should use your unfair advantage. And if you're in the content business, don't buy a boring business in the traditional sense. Look around you. It's something I call my personal P&L review. So I would basically look at, what do I spend money on already? If you're in content, you probably spend money on ad purchasing, right? You probably spend money on video production. You probably spend money on, maybe you rent a set space. Mm-hmm. You have all these expenses around you. Mm-hmm. And what if you could turn one or two of those expenses into an asset, not a liability, thing that makes you money, not a thing that costs you money? And so, I did a deal back when I was doing more video production in my last company where I bought a podcast and video production company. And I did that deal basically for $0. I think I put $10,000 down for that deal that ended up doing about $300,000, $400,000 a year, because I just said, I know like 5 or 6 other people that could use your service. I'm going to double your revenue by introducing you to these people. And I pay you, let's say $3,000 a month now. What if we're just going to wipe that out? If I can hire these other people and you're going to give me 25% of the company. So if you're young and hungry, look around you and see what you pay for and what you currently utilize already, and then try to get a percentage of that business, if not buying the whole thing. And that's sort of the pro way to do it, as opposed to car wash, need to go learn, totally different market. You can do the second. It's just a little bit riskier.
Why do you think most people don't ever reach financial freedom in their lives? Do you think it's a psychology thing, a mindset thing? Obviously, let's take, the very practical elements out of the equation. So, severe hardship, poverty, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But people that are in that sort of middle layer that are comfortable, why do they never, some of those people never really reach a point of financial freedom?
I think humans defer to the paths they've seen before them. I think so often we follow in our father's or our mother's footsteps. And that's why I think the internet's really powerful, is you have an opportunity to now choose the family footsteps you want to follow into. But most people have this weird emotional attachment to money.
The modern world tells us that we can get rich quick.
Yeah.
And when you think about how people build wealth, we think about the Warren Buffetts of the world, it's so boring and slow. And who's going to buy that book?
Yeah.
Be a billionaire at 87. What? I'm not going to be able to, dance in the nightclub at 87. So why do I want $1 billion then?
Yeah.
That's why the NFT thing and the crypto scam, this whatever, is also appealing to people.
Yeah.
Because it's quick.
It actually makes sense, because maybe it comes down to a belief that people don't think they're ever going to get out. And so they think the only chance of getting out is going into whatever the short-term pleasure is. It's like, if you never think you're going to escape your everyday reality, which is actually kind of miserable, then you're going to buy the PlayStation, because why wouldn't you? Why would you save and try to get out when you've never seen anybody else get out? When I see people who have wealth showing images of them in their Bentleys or Rolls Royces, or, I have a nice watch, but you don't see me show that shit anywhere. When people are showing themselves in their private planes or whatever, I just think they're missing the whole boat. And then what they're doing is they're perpetuating the PlayStation situation. What they should actually be showing is, man, I just invested in my first stock. That's fucking cool. If you look at my stuff, it's like I have laundromats and car washes behind me all the time in them, because that's the stuff that you should try to strive for. You can actually pass it down. It can pay you back. You can buy as many PlayStations as you want. Have you ever felt Like when you're around other people and they're sort of negative or they want to talk about people the whole time and like how that energy feels. You know, it's like, it's draining, right? Even if you kind of get caught up in it, it's fun for a second. At the end, you're like, fuck, I feel kind of gross for having that combo. I think it's the same with ads and stuff that we take into us. And so they're basically creating our stories for us in social media by showing all this fancy stuff. And then we start to have this mimetic desire, this external desire and belief that we want it, that we need it, but we don't. We're just becoming a replica of the people that we're surrounding ourselves with, which are now social media. And now for honestly, my favorite deals to break down are the celebrity deals because they're fascinating. Like The Rock. Have you ever looked at The Rock's content from a product perspective? Brilliant. So The Rock, if you look at his content, so let's just talk Instagram. If you go to The Rock's Instagram, I want you to count how many pieces of content he has that have product placement in them of companies he owns. And the answer is close to 80%. So almost every single post The Rock does is an ad. But what do we really see? We see sexy tequila, we see abs, we see him with his beautiful wife. Like we see these other things, but we don't realize that every single one of them is an ad. And so what if we could flip that around? Like, wouldn't it be cool if The Rock talked about the deals he did too and how he did that? Now he goes back and he talks about how he stole Snickers bars, similar to you with pizza. But I think even for celebrities, they don't want to talk about the deals that they did. They just want to talk about all the money that they have. Like Reese Witherspoon, billionaire now. Why? Because Reese Witherspoon, little sweet Susie Sunshine in Pink, basically took a book club and said to authors, I'll give you part of my platform for you to talk about your book because I'm lovely. It's free. You're going to sell a bunch of books. It's tiny, insignificant detail. I'd like the future rights to turn your book into a movie and I'll pay you some sum, or I'll have a right of first refusal, aka I get the right to buy it before anybody else and I'll pay you then for it. The author goes, amazing, Reese, of course, perfect. They come on, Reese basically A/B tests, so tests out which books do best, and depending on which books do best, Reese buys their movie rights and makes movies that create, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. But Reese doesn't tell that story. Reese tells the Susie Sunshine story of her selling the books. I think the other story is more interesting and more people can learn from it. It's really helpful to do is say, okay, it is a hack. I saw behind the curtain for the first time when I had managers and bosses who were making tens of millions of dollars a year, and I realized how little they worked, like you said, but also how average they were. I saw these largely middle-aged dudes who were no more impressive than I was, and they were crushing it. And instead of having envy or hate for that, I was super curious. I'm like, this guy can do it. That means I can do it. And I think that's a huge unlock, actually. I was talking with another friend the other week, and I think one of the secrets to success might be when you see somebody who has more, who is doing better, who has more money, realizing that means that you can get it as opposed to, I hate them because they have it. If you can flip that mindset, on the other side of that lives nothing but opportunity. And okay, you have a 3-year goal, break the frame. How could you achieve that goal in 6 months? What would be something so different, so out of the box, so big that the goal that was going to take you 3 to 6 years is now going to take you 6 months? And I want you to spend some time on that. Spend a weekend deeply thinking about that idea. Because what you're going to do is you're going to come up with ideas for the person that could be the impetus for your financial freedom, or for the business risk that's super smart, but you haven't been wanting to take it. And